Indiana football is unstoppable right now.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. It is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Gardner. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen each and every day. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first ticket purchase. Well, thank you so much for being here. Shout out to all of my everydayers, all of my supporters. Thank you for supporting me, supporting this show, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on audio, on our social media. Follow us on Twitter at Locked On Hoosiers, on our posts here on YouTube. Hopefully you're seeing a lot of that, right? I'm trying to make this as interactive for you as possible. And so putting in a lot of work, and I see your support. And so thank you very, very much. Want to remind you, this show is free to you every single day, Monday through Friday. And I appreciate you making this your go-to spot for all things Indiana athletics. Well, Indiana football, man, they continue to roll. They just look unstoppable, up to number 18 in the AP poll. More on that later. Also some basketball recruiting things later as well. But could we have asked for a better start for this Indiana football team in year one under Curt Cignetti? This team is 6-0. They were the first team in the country to punch their ticket to a bowl game, right? There's another team that did it this weekend too, but we were the first team in America to qualify for a bowl game. We're 6-0 for the first time since the 60s, and that just doesn't seem to be a whole lot of flaws with this team right now. We go on the road and we take down Northwestern 41-24. And this was one of those games that if you had been tuning in last week, I told you, don't overlook this game. Don't walk into here, right, with the McGregor swag and just think that you're going to roll over a bad Northwestern team, because they have the dudes. They are good enough to beat you if you don't play really, really good football. And I think Indiana played good football. It looked a little sketchy early, right? Northwestern hung around, but let's back up here just for a second. We're still talking about a Big Ten Power 4 football team. I know that it's lower level, but still, you're not supposed to blow them out in the first quarter. That's not how this goes. And so, yeah, it was close. It was 17-10 at the half, but Indiana used a really good second half. We pulled away. We continued to play our style of football, throwing it all over the yard, running when we have to, punching it in down there on the goal line. I mean, we did exactly what we were supposed to do. And you put up 41 points in a conference game on the road, mind you, and you win 41-24. I think this was a really, really clean, well-executed Big Ten win. 41-24 final score. Hoosiers put up over 500 yards of offense thanks to Curtis Rourke, who threw for 380, 25 of 33, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, no turnovers. Indiana didn't turn it over once, didn't force a turnover, but didn't turn it over through the air, on the ground, anything. And so this is an Indiana football team that outside of one game hasn't turned it over at all. And that's really, really fascinating to me. And it's impressive, really, to say the least. And so I'm impressed all the way around because, man, the offense found a way. Like I said, after the first quarter was, okay. First half was all right. We started to pick it up a little bit. And then the second half, we looked really good. But they responded really well. And they've done that all season long. And the defense has done exactly what they were supposed to do. 336 yards. Okay, that's not great, but it's not terrible either for a Northwestern team that I think you would all agree has some talent. And you could see it on the field on Saturday. And so never will you ever see me or hear me complaining about a team going on the road in conference play and winning by double digits. I'm not ever going to complain about that. And I think 24 points defense gave up, good enough. 41 points you scored offensively, good enough. And did you know this? We have still yet to trail in a football game this season. The Indiana Hoosiers are 6 games through this college football season and have not yet trailed a single second all season long. That's a crazy stat, man. And it shows how good we are starting fast, starting and getting a really, really good drive or a couple of drives put together, scoring on those drives, and then not giving it up. And man, all the credit in the world to Curt Cignetti and this staff. Curt Cignetti continues to show why this was an amazing hire. And we just look unstoppable right now. I know the schedule is going to get tougher. Believe me, I totally understand that. But this week, it doesn't. This week, we have earned this bye week. Very, very happy that they're on a bye. I hate that we don't play Saturday because I'm really enjoying watching our team go to work. But they earned this bye week, man. They deserve it. They've played extremely well, very hard, and one of the later bye weeks in college football. I mean, most teams have already had their bye week, so Indiana will be one of the few that gets it here in this is technically week 7 now of college football, and so much deserved bye week because we know what's coming on next week, the Nebraska game. And that's a Nebraska team that is a very, very, very good team. They're not ranked right now. I think they probably will be. They have been for quite some time. Of course, they dropped that game a few weeks ago. But the way college football is going, Nebraska will be a top 10 team by the time next week hits, and Indiana will be the number 1 team in the country because nobody can win games. It's upset city out there. It's unbelievable to see. The Big Ten got waxed this weekend. If you were a top 10, top 15 team, man, bad news for you. Let me tell you what, college football went insane this weekend. But Indiana did what they were supposed to do. Indiana took care of business, 41-24, final score at Northwestern. We get a bye week. We then move into the Nebraska game, the back half of our schedule. It's tougher, but it's still doable. And, hey, until they do it, until they stop us, I'm considering us unstoppable. All right, well, coming up on Locked On Hoosiers, we'll talk about those new AP poll rankings. Hoosiers move up a few spots up to number 18, but we're not alone. And I think that's really dumb. Plus, we'll talk about that crazy weekend of college football, how it impacts the outcome and moving forward, and, of course, how it impacts your Indiana Hoosiers. That's coming up next right here on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you cannot find anywhere else, even those who are not actively searching for a new job, but just might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So it's pretty simple. If you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're flat out looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours, one single day. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Welcome back into Locked On Hoosiers. Thank you so much for being here, making this your first listen each and every day. A reminder, this show is free to you every day, Monday through Friday. You never have to pay for it on YouTube, on the audio platform. It's always free. And if you're looking for a way to support a show that is free to you and hopefully that you enjoy, there's a few things you can do for me really quickly. On YouTube, be sure you like our video. All right, that gets it out. The algorithm, it'll share it around. Be sure you comment down below your thoughts on Indiana football's win over Northwestern. Were you impressed? Were you, a little scared, a little shaky, just glad to get the win? Let me know in the YouTube comments down below. And then the best way you can help me out is hit the subscribe button. It's to the right of our Locked On Hoosiers logo. You can click on that. You become an everydayer. And the good thing is, as I mentioned earlier, here on YouTube, man, we're not just posting daily videos. We've got reels we got going out. We've got posts. We've got all sorts of things like interactive, some polls. We have all sorts of things going out for you on YouTube. It's almost like it's a home, really, where we just have so many things happening where that's interactive for you and the community to be a part of. So I really want you to be a part of that here at Locked On Hoosiers. So be sure you do that. Any of my audio listeners, do the same thing. Follow us over there. Subscribe if you can. Turn on notifications. That way you never miss an episode of Locked On Hoosiers. Well, we've all seen the newest AP poll. Indiana up to number 18 in the country, but yet we're not the only one. We're tied in the AP poll with Oklahoma and Kansas State, all three at number 18. Yeah, Texas A&M at 15, Utah at 16, Boise State at 17, and then boom, boom, boom. 3 number 18s, and then number 21, Missouri. Like, I know what it's based off of. It's based off the votes that you receive, and it's all in the calculations, but come on, man. I mean, really? Really? We can't have somebody like step in here and be like, okay, let's just rank them 18, 19, 20. Because can we be honest? Indiana's better than Oklahoma, and Indiana's better than Kansas State. So we're the 18th team in the country, and I'm going to say, and roll with that until the new rankings come out. And Indiana can't hurt themselves this week because we don't play. But if college football has shown us anything through the first 6 weeks, Indiana has a decent chance to move up and not do anything to do it, right? College football was crazy this weekend. Absolutely insane. And you just start with the Big Ten, right? Oregon took care of business on Friday night. Good for them. Ohio State, they pulled away from Iowa as they always do. This game is played the exact same way every single time. It's close, it's close, it's close. Big quarter by Ohio State, and then it fizzles out at the end. That's how this game goes every time. It's boring, man. It's boring football, but hey, Ohio State wins, whatever. Penn State. Penn State had to squeak by, whatever word you want to use right there against UCLA. I'll tell you what, man, the UCLA team, they're scrappy. They're a scrappy bunch. They're not a good bunch, but they're a scrappy bunch. And I'm still not sold on Penn State. I'm not sold on the Nittany Lions. And, man, I tell you what, I wish Indiana played Penn State this year because I think we're a better team. I don't think they could stop us. I really don't. I think Indiana would have a chance at home. I don't know about playing over there at Beaver Stadium, but at home, Indiana's two scores better than Penn State. I really do think that because what has Penn State done to show that they are a top 10 team? They beat Illinois. Okay, you beat them 21-7, and then you beat UCLA 27-11. You let that UCLA team score the late and make it almost interesting. Like, I don't know. I'm not sold on Penn State. Problem is, we're not going to find out until they play Ohio State, and Ohio State may hang 100 on them. So they do squeak by UCLA. This is where it starts to get fascinating, and this is what starts to impact us as Indiana fans. You had a top 10 Michigan team go all the way out to Washington, where I said Michigan's the better team. They're going to run the ball. They're going to ground and pound. They're going to play defense, and they're going to win this thing. They lose by 10. Lose by 10 to Washington, 27-17. And I think we're starting to see now this Michigan team. They're still talented, right? I mean, they're defending national champions, but at 4-2, I think we're starting to see they're just an average football team. Washington's an average football team too, but Washington wins, but I just don't think Michigan's all that great. And remember, they come to Bloomington in just a few weeks. What a huge game that could be. Then you had a top 11 team, USC, go and play Minnesota, and they lose 24-17. USC, what are we doing? What are you doing? You had everything in front of you, and you drop it. Now you're 1-2 in Big Ten play. Oh, that's disgusting. Wisconsin exposes Purdue. Nebraska sneaks by Rutgers. A reminder, Nebraska's who we get next. And so, man, that's just the Big Ten. college football as a whole, again, if you were a top 10, top 15 team, I'm sorry. You had a terrible weekend. Number 25, UNLV, goes down to Syracuse. Number 1, Alabama, gets beat by Vanderbilt. Oh, Vanderbilt, man. That's embarrassing. Number 4, Tennessee, they lose to Arkansas. Miami has to squeak by California on the road in Berkeley. Number 9, Missouri goes down to Texas A&M. Number 10, Michigan goes down. Number 11, USC goes down, right? At number 22, Louisville goes down. I mean, it was not a fun weekend for top 25 teams, which is why it's so huge and I think has to be highlighted when you do have a team like Indiana who continues to go out and just take care of their business, just do what they're supposed to do. Has the schedule been extremely tough? No, it hasn't. But we've still won football games. We've still won games. And if this weekend didn't prove what I've been saying for quite some time, maybe it is sitting in with you now. College football is different, man. Teams are better than they've ever been across the board, top to bottom. And go look at Vanderbilt. That's a perfect example. Vanderbilt had not beaten Alabama in going on 30 years or something like that, over 20 for sure. And they went toe-to-toe, pound for pound, man for man with the number 1 team in the country. I don't think they were the number 1 team, but that's what the ranking said. And Vanderbilt straight up beat them. And that doesn't happen. And what that tells me, and I watched a lot of that game, what it tells me is there are dudes everywhere now. There are good players on every single team. NIL transfer portal. That's what has changed the game of college football. It's changed it for us. We're better because of it, aren't we? Here in Bloomington. So we're not hating on it. I'm not hating on it by any means because we're one of the teams taking advantage of it because we brought in a ton of talent this offseason. And it has made us a legitimate contender in college football at 6-0 and the number 18 team in the country. And now we move forward, and here's what's coming up for the Hoosiers really quickly here. Nebraska next week. Again, we're off this week with the bye. Nebraska will come in next week. I hope they're a ranked team. Who do they play? I'll pull this up right now. Who do they play in between us? Oh, they have a bye week too. Okay, well, there you go. So both teams coming off a bye week will make that really, that's right, we've talked about that. That'll make this really interesting. 2 teams, tons of time to prepare, get healthy, get right, and then they come into Bloomington for a game that all eyes in the Big Ten anyway. College football should, but all eyes in the Big Ten will be on the Indiana and Nebraska game. Washington at home. You go to Michigan State. Michigan, who's now 24 in the country, they come here to Bloomington. Then you go to Ohio State, the number 2 team in the country, and then you get Purdue at home. I'm just saying, man, we handle business. We continue to handle business. You're going to be favored. I think you're favored against Nebraska. I think you're favored against Washington. I think you're favored against Michigan State. You very well could be favored against Michigan at home. That's 4. You won't be favored against Ohio State, and I think you'd be favored against Purdue. So 5 out of your 6 games, you're probably going to be favored in. I don't know, Hoosier fans. I'm just saying, are we unstoppable? We are right now, but can we continue that trend? I guess we'll find out as the weeks go on. Well, coming up on our final segment on Locked On Hoosiers, a little bit of basketball updates. We got a Final Four. We've got some, clearing up to do on some dates and when we could see some more commits. We'll have all that coming up for you in our final segment on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste your time searching through thousands and thousands of tickets. One of my favorite parts about the Game Time app, because you know this, my everydayers know, this is my go-to ticketing app. I don't go anywhere else. I don't use anything else. And when I think of going to an event, instantly I get on the Game Time app. And some of my favorite features of it, and it's the reason that I use it every time. They're all in pricing. All right. When you toggle this feature, it shows your total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. So be sure you toggle that when you get the app, turn that on, and you'll have your all-in pricing set up. And then their lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. What time is it? It's game time. Final segment here on Locked On Hoosiers. Thank you for being here. Shout out my everydayers. You know who you are. And if you want to become one, it's simple. Just come back every day. Hit the subscribe button, like the video, comment down below, and boom, you've become one. And we're growing like crazy over here. Update count on our subscribers on YouTube, because remember, we passed 3,000. We're at 3,082 now. So making our way up to 3,100 subscribers. So thank you so much for doing that. Hey, I know this is your first listen, your first watch every day, but if you're looking for something else to add to your rotation, your second watch and listen every day, go check out Locked On College Basketball. Andy Patton, Isaac Shade do a wonderful job talking all the biggest storylines in college basketball. Practices are underway. The season starts next month. They're really diving into it right now over there. So go check them out and tell them that Jacob from Locked On Hoosiers sent you. They'd love to have you over there. Well, just a quick update on Indiana basketball recruiting. Nothing has changed in terms of actual commitments, but we do have some news. And it starts with Bryson Tiller, who has made his Final Four official, right? He has made it official to the world, where Bryson Tiller will be, has his top four with Kansas, UConn, Georgia Tech, and Indiana. And he is planning to commit soon. He's one of the many that will be committing in the early period, which is coming up in early mid-November. So keep that in mind, where Indiana is in the Final Four with Bryson Tiller, who I think is a really, really good player, man. 6'9", 5-star forward who can play anywhere on the floor, really. I mean, a guy that Indiana has, I'm not going to say went all in immediately on, because that wouldn't be true, but they've just slowly ramped it up over time, and they've made a really good relationship with him. And I think that Indiana is in this down to the end. Now, Georgia Tech, because of it, it's a location thing, Atlanta, that type of stuff. But I mean, Kansas, UConn, Indiana, that makes sense, right? Those three programs are legit. And so keep an eye on that. We'll keep you updated on Bryson Tiller, a guy that I think is program changing, yes, but a really good addition to a good class. You know what I'm saying? Like, if he's the only one you get, yes, you're excited, but I feel he plays really good with other players, and I'm hoping that that's what Indiana can do on this. And so I will keep you updated on Bryson Tiller. A couple of other guys we need to talk about here. Names that you know. I'm not throwing any new names out there to you. I think what's important to know is a lot of these guys, in terms of Michael Brown, Nate Ament, Braylon Mullins, like, we've got some time. Some of those guys, I think the back to Michael Brown and Nate Ament, I think they could probably get into the later part of the season, maybe even to next year. But Braylon Mullins is in decision-making time. It's time for him to make a call, and he is. He's waiting and going to make a decision very, very soon. You've got those guys sitting around. Eric Reeby's the same way. Winters Grady, a guy we talked about late last week. Indiana starting to make a surge here, folks. So keep that in mind as well. Again, just wanted to update you on some dates, on a few updates. Bryson Tiller's top four. No commitments as of now, but we're still working. And that's what I want to remind you of. There are still a lot of bobbers in the water here. Mullins, Tiller, Reeby, Ament, Brown. I mean, did I miss anybody? Grady, right? So 6. You got 6 guys that are still out there that Indiana's trying to go after. You've already got one in the boat, right? You've got Trent Sisley in the boat. and you have a chance to get a few more. And look, do I think we get all 6? No, I don't. But I think a number that I'm looking for, I'd love to get 3 more. I'd love to get 3 more. And to be honest, I'm not going to be picky. I don't care what 3 it is. I have my choice, but at the end of the day, give me any of them because they're all good. You've got a point guard, you've got shooting guards, you've got forwards, you have a center. Like, you have everything in there that you need to be a successful recruiting class. So yeah, if I had my choice, I'd say Brown, Mullins, and Reeby, but I'll take any of them. And so we'll keep you updated on that in terms of Indiana basketball recruiting. It's about to ramp up, ladies and gentlemen. I'm telling you, it's about to ramp up. In Indiana, we've got to find ourselves on the correct side of all these recruiting battles. I know you feel that way, but believe me, I feel that way too. All right, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers. Again, thank you for being here. Shout out to all of you supporting the show. Whether it's your first time or you're back for every day, I really do appreciate you. Like the video before you go. That way all the other Indiana people can find it. Be sure you drop a comment down below. Who's the next Hoosier to commit? Who's the next kid to commit to Indiana basketball? I want to hear your thoughts down below. And then be sure that you subscribe to the channel if you have not done that already. Helps me out, helps you out, become an everydayer, and I really do appreciate that. So do those things for me. All my audio listeners, thank you as well. Subscribe over there, follow, turn on notifications on your audio platform. We are back tomorrow, Hoosier fans. So until then, stay safe, and I'll talk to you later.